Hey everybody, happy Friday. So, just a heads up, we are pre-recording this on Wednesday. So, if Trump makes some awesome picks in the next 2 days, now you know why we're not talking about them on today's podcast.
Maybe I'll
But
post about it on TikTok for everyone.
perfect, because I am going to be freezing my ass off in the woods while y'all are listening to this. So I'm doing this like winter camp class.
How
So
cold is it there?
like in the low 20s.
Oh my God. I feel like it was
Yeah.
just like a week ago that you were like saying how hot it was. That's
I
crazy.
I swear to God there was no fall. There was like a week of fall and we shifted from like summer almost directly into winter. And it's actually supposed to snow this weekend, I think. So I can't say I'm looking forward
You're
to
brave.
that, but it should be fun anyway. We shall see. I'll let you know on Monday.
Yeah.
But today we're going to talk about something that we're both really excited about, that we think is incredibly important and relates to one of the reasons that we even started this podcast in the first place, which was speaking out against censorship and the disinformation, misinformation campaigns that were being shoved down our throats back in 2020 that just escalated and got even worse during the last 4 years. The social media censorship, government colluding with big tech, the COVID narrative, the Russia collusion hoax, like all the bullshit fed to us by the left. And so, one of the things that I am most excited about with Trump getting back into office is his plan to restore free speech. So he gave this incredible speech a couple days ago where he outlines what the plan is going to be. And it's kind of a long clip, but it's totally worth it, and you guys need to hear this.
If we don't have free speech, then we just don't have a free country. It's as simple as that. If this most fundamental right is allowed to perish, then the rest of our rights and liberties will topple just like dominoes, one by one. They'll go down. That's why today I'm announcing my plan to shatter the left-wing censorship regime and to reclaim the right to free speech for all Americans. And reclaim is a very important word in this case because they've taken it away. In recent weeks, bombshell reports have confirmed that a sinister group of deep state bureaucrats, Silicon Valley tyrants, left-wing activists, and depraved corporate news media have been conspiring to manipulate and silence the American people. They have collaborated to suppress vital information on everything from elections to public health. The censorship cartel must be dismantled and destroyed, and it must happen immediately. And here's my plan. First, within hours of my inauguration, I will sign an executive order banning any federal department or agency from colluding with any organization, business, or person to censor, limit, categorize, or impede the lawful speech of American citizens. I will then ban federal money from being used to label domestic speech as mis or disinformation. And I will begin the process of identifying and firing every federal bureaucrat who has engaged in domestic censorship, directly or indirectly, whether they are the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Health, Human Services, the FBI, the DOJ, no matter who they are. Second, I will order the Department of Justice to investigate all parties involved in the new online censorship regime, which is absolutely destructive and terrible, and to aggressively prosecute any and all crimes identified. These include possible violations of federal civil rights law, campaign finance laws, federal election law, securities law, and antitrust laws, the Hatch Act, and a host of other potential criminal, civil, regulatory, and constitutional offenses. To assist in these efforts, I am urging House Republicans to immediately send preservation letters, and we have to do this right now, to the Biden administration, the Biden campaign, and every Silicon Valley tech giant, ordering them not to destroy evidence of censorship. Third, upon my inauguration as president, I will ask Congress to send a bill to my desk revising Section 230 to get big online platforms out of censorship business. From now on, digital platforms should only qualify for immunity protection under Section 230 if they meet high standards of neutrality, transparency, fairness, and non-discrimination. We should require these platforms to increase their efforts to take down unlawful content such as child exploitation and promoting terrorism while dramatically curtailing their power to arbitrarily restrict lawful speech. Fourth, we need to break up the entire toxic censorship industry that has arisen under the false guise of tackling so-called mis- and disinformation. The federal government should immediately stop funding all nonprofits and academic programs that support this authoritarian project. If any U.S. university is discovered to have engaged in censorship activities or election interferences in the past, such as flagging social media content for removal of blacklisting, those universities should lose federal research dollars and federal student loan support for a period of 5 years and maybe more. We should also enact new laws laying out clear criminal penalties for federal bureaucrats who partner with private entities to do an end run around the Constitution and deprive Americans of their First, Fourth, and Fifth Amendment rights. In other words, deprive them of their vote. And once you lose those elections, and once you lose your borders like we have, you no longer have a country. Furthermore, to confront the problems of major platforms being infiltrated by legions of former deep staters and intelligence officials, there should be a 7-year cooling off period before any employee of the FBI, CIA, NSA, DNI, DHS, or DOD is allowed to take a job at a company possessing vast quantities of U.S. user data. Fifth, the time has finally come for Congress to pass a digital Bill of Rights. This should include a right to digital due process. In other words, government officials should need a court order to take down online content, not send information requests such as the FBI was sending to Twitter. Furthermore, when users of big online platforms have their content or accounts removed, throttled, shadow banned, or otherwise restricted, no matter what name they use, they should have the right to be informed that it's happening, the right to a specific explanation of the reason why, and the right to a timely appeal. In addition, all users over the age of 18 should have the right to opt out of content moderation and curation entirely and receive an unmanipulated stream of information if they so choose. The fight for free speech is a matter of victory or death for America and for the survival of Western civilization itself. When I am president, this whole rotten system of censorship and information control will be ripped out of the system at large. There won't be anything left. By restoring free speech, we'll begin to reclaim our democracy and save our nation. Thank you, and God bless America.
Avoidance and
Okay, I don't know when he said that because, he referenced like the Biden campaign, but RFK Jr. posted it 3 days ago and it's had like 400 million views or
Yeah,
thousand.
he has like all these different videos on the actions he's going to take immediately, which is amazing because I mean, how thorough was that? And
Yes.
does this mean that I don't have to talk in code anymore on TikTok? Like I can just actually say what I mean and not have to use like fake words?
That's what I'm hoping. And like one of my favorite things is how he called it the censorship cartel, because that's like totally what it is. And I'm really curious to see like how Facebook and Instagram deal with this. And like you said, TikTok, like this could just literally change everything because that's like, how many times have we been censored? I mean, we're not even, you can't even, we're shadow banned completely on Facebook. Like even rarely get response on Instagram and constant warnings on TikTok. Like I even got a warning on even YouTube. We get warnings on YouTube.
Yeah.
So it's like, how amazing would it be to be able to post content?
all the people I follow on TikTok that are on it even more than I am, they're on like their second, third, fourth, fifth accounts because they've been banned altogether. Like it is absolutely insane. And I think it's great. And I love how he called out like the child pornography and stuff. Cause like, isn't it funny how as soon as Elon Musk took over Twitter, that stuff just disappeared on Twitter?
Yeah.
Like, but then on Facebook and Instagram, it's still everywhere. So it's like, yeah, take care of that stuff instead of focusing your time on censoring American citizens that are just using their freedom of speech. So it's like music to my ears.
Yeah. And it's like one of the things you and I talk about all the time is like how all the people that propagated this shit need to be held accountable, right? And you heard him say he's going to do an executive order. But my question is like, will there actually, can he do it, right? Will there actually be any accountability? Because can it, can everything that happened be considered wrong when it all occurred during a time period when government propaganda is actually legal? Because it is. And it's supported by a piece of legislation that a lot of people don't know about called the Smith-Mundt Act. And I know we talked about this like vaguely a long time ago, but we never got into it. And I was reading a blog article from one of the writers I follow, and she's super into health and she's always writing stuff about RFK Jr. And she brought up the Smith-Mundt Act and like the whole COVID narrative. And so I was like, oh shit, I've got to look that up again. And so when I looked it up, I'm like, this is perfectly coinciding with everything that Trump says he's going to get rid of. And so can he actually do it, right? Can we hold anybody accountable? And so just a little bit of background if you guys aren't familiar with this act. It's technically called the US Information and Educational Exchange Act, and it was like signed into law by President Truman back in 1948. And the whole purpose of it was to basically allow the State Department to regulate how like programs were broadcast from the US to foreign countries. And it wasn't just the radio, it was like face-to-face contact, publishing of books and magazines and media, any information related to education, culture, and technical ideas. And from what I understand, like the whole point was to control the narrative of how we wanted to portray America to the rest of the world during the Cold War.
Yeah. So I've heard people mention this like off and on for the past few years, but not really in depth. Like it's not something that comes up all the time or like in the mainstream, which is really surprising. But I guess what happened was during the Obama administration, it was amended. And what they did with the amendment was they made it legal to use propaganda against American citizens. And so I looked it up and like it's right there on Wikipedia with links to, all of the congressional activity that took place. And what it says is, quote, the act was developed to regulate broadcasting of programs for foreign audiences produced under the guidance by the State Department. And it prohibited domestic dissemination of materials produced by such programs as one of its provisions. The original version of the act was amended by the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act of 2012, which allowed for materials produced by the State Department and Broadcasting Board of Governors to be made available within the United States. So it's basically saying that, okay, forget what Truman said when the act was originated. It's not just propaganda for like foreign countries. We're going to use this right here within the United States. And it went on to say that several news outlets reported that the 2013 NDAA overturned a 64-year ban on the domestic dissemination of propaganda. Again, like this is right there. All these news outlets reported on it, yet somehow we never heard about it, right? And so basically it eliminated this distinction between foreign and domestic audiences. And it gives the government free rein to put whatever they want out. And it doesn't matter who's seeing it, whether it's a US citizen or someone abroad. And so the news website, BuzzFeed News, they were one of the people that were listed on Wikipedia. And it said that there was an unnamed source saying that the Smith Modernization Act of 2012 would allow, quote, U.S. propaganda intended to influence foreign audiences to be used on the domestic population, end quote. And so I looked it up, and the bill in 2012 was actually introduced by Congressman Mac Thornberry and Adam Smith. So it was a Republican and a Democrat. And the reason that they gave at the time was that Al Qaeda was infiltrating our internet and putting out like anti Americanism content. And so we needed to counter that. So it was all tied to like the terrorism stuff. And the media and outreach coordinator of the US State Department's Bureau of African Affairs is someone that actually spoke up at the time and called this out. And he was saying, how can we preach freedom of the press abroad while practicing censorship at home? That makes no sense. And he also said it would be just a matter of time before all of this time and resources would be diverted to domestic public affairs and to the political advantage of any administration. Like he called it. This is exactly what we've been seeing under the Biden administration. And he
Yeah.
tried warning everyone, and no one freaking listened. Um, and so there was also an unnamed Pentagon official who came forward and was concerned about this in 2012. And he said, quote, it removes the protection for Americans. It removes oversight from the people who want to put out this information. There's no checks and balances. No one knows if the information is accurate, partially accurate, or entirely false, end quote. Well, he was right because, I mean, how many times do we see this play out during COVID with the whole January 6th insurrection and like any talk whatsoever of potential election fraud? And it's just so wild to me that this is out there, but we never heard about it. No one knows about it, you know? And the other thing is like it all seems to tie back to 9/11 because it was like 9/11 was used as the justification to allow our government to do things that we never would have done if we weren't afraid of terrorism. And so it's like pushed them to say, oh, propaganda is okay because we're fighting terrorism. Like, oh, it's okay to be a surveillance state with the Patriot Act because we're protecting ourselves from terrorists. And it's just allowed our government to like go rogue.
Yeah, and it was basically just like sold as a way to promote greater government transparency to counter, anti-American sentiment at home. But it's just been weaponized by the government to do the exact opposite. And it's like used on to turn on actual patriotic American citizens. And what's crazy to me is like nobody has been talking about this. Like when I went to look up information, all I saw was like the Wikipedia stuff that you talked about and some articles dating back to like 2015 and earlier. Why has nobody said anything about this, especially during the last 4 years? It just blows my mind.
Yeah, and it's a good point that like it was supposed to stop anti-American, propaganda, but like it's actually been pushing it over the
Yeah.
last few years where anyone who's pro-America is censored and, spreading misinformation. So it's like, what does that mean? Who is controlling this information? Is it China? Like, has our government been infiltrated? There's so many questions here. And, you're right. I haven't found anything recent. Um, I don't know why we haven't heard about this from Trump and his people. You would think they would be shouting it from the rooftops. The only one that I could find that seems to like touch the surface of this is Kash Patel. And he did an interview on the Sean Ryan show. And in the interview, he gets into like how the left has gotten away with all the bullshit that they've pulled. And he was saying it all boils down to like they're illegally using the classification system when they get caught. So that's how you don't know what's propaganda and what's real, because everything's classified. So let me play this clip real quick because he explains it better.
Declassification. You need a 24/7 declassification office, whatever you want to call it. Transparency, truth, whatever, I don't care. Sits in the White House, reports directly to you, and you take incoming from the United States of America. I want JFK. I want the 9/11 files. I want this. I want that. All the FBI, and this is a tool, this is something we didn't cover. What the deep state uses the most to cover up their corruption is an illegal application of the classification system. Remember the Lovebirds text from, this is a beauty, the Lovebirds text from FBI, DOJ land, Russiagate, Strzok and Page were texting each other. Who they were running the Russiagate investigation against Trump. They were the head of the counterintelligence unit at the FBI. And they're having an extramarital affair together. Can't make this stuff up. They're sending each other texts about how much they hate Trump and are going to create an insurance policy to stop Trump. Then we finally find those text messages. You know what the FBI and DOJ do for like a year? Redact them to congressional investigators and congressional men and women running the oversight of their agency. That's just one example. But it gets even better. Here's the deep state full circle. Just last week, do you know what Strzok and Page received from the Department of Justice? What? A $1.5 million payout to settle a lawsuit that Strzok and Page brought for the improper disclosure of their personal text messages on FBI phones. And the DOJ just rewarded them. They broke the law. They broke the chain of command. They broke every regulation there is in the FBI. They weaponized the system of justice against a political target they hated. We found those text messages, and we got them declassified finally in full when I became Deputy Director of National Intelligence. And the world has now seen them, and they can read them. And that's the best form of transparency. That's why I want this 24/7 declassification office.
So for me, like, that helped me kind of connect the dots of just how deep this whole thing goes.
Yeah, since when is anything text on a government phone personal messages? Like, even just me being a cop, like anything I did on a city cell phone, the city owned that fucking phone. Like, they basically owned whatever I text or did on that phone.
Right. And what's crazy is that story, the whole Russian collusion thing, that was the focus of the mainstream media for years,
Yep.
years. And still to this day, people believe that there was Russian collusion. And there wasn't. These people who like peddled all of this propaganda, not only are they, like fine, they're getting $1.5 million from our government. Like, so this
Insane.
is how deep the rot goes and how messed up the whole thing is and why they get away with it, because it's apparently legal to push propaganda. And I do think if it's going to change, the best shot we have is with the Trump administration, especially this is why get Kash Patel in there.
Yes.
I don't care. Like, maybe he will be back with the national intelligence. Get him in there and put him in charge of the classification system, because it's the golden age. Like, the truth is coming to light. All the lies and the deceit from 2008 till now is supposed to end. And he is the perfect guy for taking away this excessive classification power. And he's not the only one that's talking about this. So, Tim Burchett, he's like that representative of Tennessee. I really like him. He was talking about this just the other day because he's on one of the committees that's looking into the whole UAP UFO disclosures. And he brought this up. He was saying how the military and these generals and like agencies that Congress is dealing with, he was saying they are so arrogant and they just tell the congressman that everything's classified. And like they'll give them a document and everything is redacted. So he was calling on Trump to provide massive disclosure. He's like, I think that the American people are ready for it. And essentially everything needs to be declassified and just let the American public finally see the truth. I think they can handle it. And so he's got Kash Patel and this guy calling on Trump to do that.
Well, you know who else is doing that? It's Tucker. And he went on a great rant on one of his recent podcasts, and I want to play a clip.
If you want to restore honesty to government, if you want to get rid of corruption, there's a very simple way to do that, and it's with transparency. It's allowing people to know what their government is doing with their money in their name. And if you can't know, if somehow you're being prevented from knowing, then you can be absolutely certain that crimes are being committed. Because why else would they be hiding it from you? Why is it that 62 years later, after the president of the United States was murdered, we can't see all the files on that, all the documents on that? Why is it that 23 years after 9/11, files are still classified? Why is that? I had a friend die in 9/11, like probably a lot of people in this room. I was there, totally changed my life. Why can't I know what exactly happened? Like, why don't you answer that question? It's our government. No federal bureaucrat has the right to tell you that you can't know what your government is doing. Who owns this government? The federal bureaucrat who can't be fired? No, I don't think so. We do. So if you wind up in a country with over 1 billion classified federal documents, you're living in an extremely corrupt country, extremely corrupt. And everyone around the world knows that about the United States. We don't know it. We don't think we live in a corrupt country. We do. And we can fix it super easily. And that's just, let's declassify it. Every 9/11 document should be declassified. Oh, shut up, conspiracy theorist. No. If you want to create conspiracy theories, pull down a curtain of secrecy over what actually happened. Why are you afraid to tell me the whole story? Why are you afraid to tell me the truth? We can resolve this right away. Just let me see the evidence. I have a right, I have a moral right to it. They have no moral right to keep it from us. So if I have one hope secretly for this administration, it's massive declassification. And let's find out what they've been doing. What happened to all the $100 billion we sent to Ukraine? There's been no audit. Oh, they don't want to declassify that? Why? Oh, because it's a scam. That's why. And that's why I'm just so grateful that Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who I believe spoke to you earlier, will be a part of this administration, and I think he will be. I think he'll be a cabinet secretary, and I hope that his presence reminds all of us the cost of secrecy. 2 members of his family were murdered. We still can't see the documents there. Why is that? And why don't we have full transparency on anything related to public health? What's the actual answer? And the answer is they're lying, and they shouldn't be allowed to lie. So I hope that changes.
I love it.
I know.
So you have all these people, that are very close to Trump, have a huge audience that are saying, hey, it's time to declassify it. And people bring up, like, why didn't he do that in his first term? But imagine like why he didn't. He had the whole world against him.
Yeah.
And, saying everything he said was a conspiracy. So I think like now is the right time. And then obviously like RFK has been pressuring him to release the JFK assassination files, which he said he would do. His whole team seems to support this. So I think we will actually see a lot of truth revealed over the next 4 years. And besides, like, all of this that they did, right? All of the propaganda that they threw at us, we still managed to see the truth. Like,
Yes.
how insane is that? So it's like we don't rely on the media broadcasting system anymore. We have technology that gives us access to knowledge and access to communicate with each other and the whole world. Again, it's the golden age. Like, I'm going to keep saying it. These old power structures are collapsing as we speak. And I think we're on to better times. And I do think a big part of that is going to be this massive disclosure where all these things are going to finally come out. And
I agree, but I really hope there's some fucking accountability. And like I said in the beginning, my concern is there won't be because this was all technically legal, which again blows my fucking mind. And I just really hope that Trump and his team will find a way to hold all these fucks accountable for all the damage that they've done to our country and to people's families and livelihoods, especially the millions of people that were impacted during COVID. And like, someone needs to be held accountable, and the number one someone is fucking Fauci.
oh yeah, that RFK is going to go after him. And just speaking of the propaganda, like some reporter was questioning RFK and was like, well, you want to just get rid of vaccines and that's irresponsible. And he said, I never said I'm going to get rid of vaccines. What I said is I want to make the studies public for the American people to see. And when that happens, all of the pharma companies are going to drop the vaccines because the truth is going to be out about how dangerous they are. I'm not doing that. I'm just making the American people aware of what they've known this whole time. And I was like, damn, like what a good way to do it. And again, just like in COVID, they thought, well, we're not smart enough to make an educated decision about our health. And here it's like the total opposite. He's saying, no, educate the people and let them decide what they want to do. They want to get the vaccine or not. So I don't know. It'll be interesting.
Yeah. Free speech, good things are coming. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. I think it's just probably going to be like a slow drip and like little by little we're going to find out about things and um
I hope it's like the fucking Twitter files on steroids, the shit that gets exposed.
oh, you know who we should nominate is Michael Schellenberger. And then,
Yeah.
God, I'm drawing a blank. Matt Taibbi.
Matt Taibbi, yeah.
And put those two on it and yeah, they will get to the bottom of it because they were the ones that like exposed all of that.
Yep.
Oh, that'll be good. Okay, well, we'll obviously be updating everyone as all of this starts to hopefully be declassified, and hopefully we'll know soon about Cash Patel. I mean, I know we're pre-recording this, but
Yeah.
all right, well, we'll keep everyone posted. Thanks for tuning in and have a great weekend.